it's remarkable. It's absolutely amazing, the athletes, the speeds they go these days. It's like nothing I've ever seen.
It's bonsai. It's a sprint race. It's fast. Everything's on the line. Just go for it.
Losing your blood to do it. Oh, there's Nome-Golovin. Let's go.
From its humble beginnings in the 1960s, the Nome-Golovin 200 has grown into one of the most prestigious events in snowmobile racing. It is a test of will, equipment, and of speed.
The Nome-Golovin 200 is like the Indy 500 snow machine racing.
Wide open.
Not only the racers, but also the community, and people are talking about it all year long and wondering which machine is going to win, and they're talking about who won the previous year and speculating on who's going to win this year. And so it's a pretty cool event.
The Nome-Golovin 200, an annual event generally held on the second Saturday of March, comprises 3 classes of machines. It averages more than 65 participants per year and an ever-increasing purse, which is distributed among the top 3 finishers in each class. The overall winner receives a $10,000 to $15,000 payout.
For overall, an additional $5,000.
As the name suggests, the Nome-Golovin 200 runs over 200 miles from the Alaskan city of Nome to the tiny town of Golovin. Along the way, it runs on the final 90 miles of the historical Iditarod Sled Dog Trail.
It's out 100, back 100, relatively speaking. With White Mountain only being, I believe that's about 70 out. So we buzz out another 20, 25, make the turn at Golovin, and then come back.
Nome, also known as the Gold Rush City, is set on the southern Seward Peninsula coast on the Bering Sea. Once the most populous city in Alaska, Nome has a subarctic climate with short, cool summers and long, dark, very cold winters.
To understand the Nome-Golovin race, you kind of have to work backwards to the Nome-Teller race, and then even have to work back prior to that. Nome in the 50s and 60s was a real isolated community. People didn't just jump on a plane and fly to Anchorage for the weekend, couldn't afford that. You couldn't even call grandma on the weekend because long distance rates were really expensive. So there was no TV, no internet, there was a movie theater that everybody went to 3 times a week, and that was it. People tried to figure out some way to have some fun to break up the long winters, because it was a long darn winter until breakup in the spring.
To help the community going through the winter season, a dog mushing competition was organized. At that time, dog-pulled sleds were very common. By the mid-1960s, however, a new kind of vehicle gained popularity: snowmobiles. In 1966, the Bering Sea Lions Club organized their first cross-country snowmobile race, covering a trail between Nome and Teller, about 72 miles northwest of Alaska's gold rush capital.
So when I got on that ski-doo and it'd go 40, 45, almost 50 miles an hour, man, that was really traveling.
A few years later, in 1972, the decision was made to extend the race to the tiny town of Golovin and back to Nome, a distance of roughly 200 miles. The Nome-Golovin 200 was born.
It was natural back then. Everybody had machine to jump on and ride. And Nome-Golovin was always exciting to me. I can't wait till my 10. It's just exciting times. The bugs and everybody's busy getting ready for this thing. It was cool. It's fun. Almost the thing to do if you had a machine.
Second inspection. This area.
So you always start downtown, whether it be on Main Street or the coast ice. You always took off individually. They staggered you in time. They'd punch you out and you'd go. And of course you're running the sea ice and you go out around Cape Nome. And you go by safety. And you're on the road and it's ballistic. Going out past Solomon and up and over the hill. And you're of course cruising down there and you hit the White Mountain area. And that's a cool spot right there on the river. And then we come out of there and we're running across the bay over to Golovin and turn the corner and come back.
Most of the racers were locals, eager to shake off the winter's cabin fever.
Race ready.
But as word spread, competitors from across the state found their way to the starting line.
The world-class racer, Mr. Dan Capay of Anchorage.
That's when the first racers began to appear from Anchorage. Charters were organized.
Back then, we started off flying them up in a DC-3, and there was about 10 of us that would pitch in, buy a DC-3, pack them in there, jump in there with the pilots and fly to Nome.
While the field of racers expanded each year, locals often proved their mettle against those from across the state.
We're going pro, bro.
Mike Morgan, grew up in Nome, born and raised. Snowmobiling was just part of life up there. Once we got off school, we went home, started our snowmobile up and took off. Right out our backyard was hundreds of miles of open country where we could go ride. My grandpa Barrow started the Morgan's snowmobile dealership up there in '56. My dad and all his brothers raced, Bruce and Dave, and my dad won it in '76. So kind of a racing backgrounded family, and I'm just the next generation in line.
You can run that thing blindfolded even today.
It's hard to beat any of the locals in their own event because they know it, like anybody knows your backyard, you know it, and somebody that just steps in has got to learn it.
How was it, Dave?
All right. All right. The first, it looks like you probably will get the overall for the first time. How's that feel for you?
Oh, I don't know if I got it yet.
Have to wait and see, huh?
Yep.
And yet, in a true spirit of brotherhood, the locals are happy to share their insights and give some advice to the out-of-area first-time racers.
First time guy gonna do it, I would say if you can, go out there and run the course a couple times before the race, just to know what's out there. And maybe ride with a buddy, just to know pacing yourself, but don't go out there thinking you're gonna win it on your first try. Because that adrenaline, that pump that's in your blood going at the time, you gotta contain that and throttle back and run your own pace. Don't let someone who's flying past you get you to lure them in. Don't do that unless you can control the machine and know what you're doing.
You gotta ride smart and you gotta ride to your own ability and have to make it back to that finish line.
Drifts, stumps, ice. You're always going so fast, and it always seems like the wind's blowing in from the east right on your eyes. So then you're tearing, and you're fighting a tearing goggle, or an iced up goggle.
Holy Jesus! A little cold out, huh?
All it takes is one bad bump to screw up your whole strategy, and one mistake, it's all over in that race because it's so fast and so competitive.
Combine the terrain and speed of the Nome-Golovin, and challenges are formidable. Add in the weather, the snow, the wind, the drifts, the changing light, and things become unpredictable. Conditions create some memorable moments.
I had some suspension problems early on in the race and was hoping that one of the shocks just got stuck, so I jumped off to take a quick look at it and realized that the shock was just completely gone. And that was shortly after I passed a couple of my buddies that was along the trail watching and cheering me on there. And once I saw that I had a missing shock, I had thoughts about maybe just go back to my buddies and watch the rest of the race. But when I first started that race, my goal was to finish. And I took a look at my shock there, and I took a look at my buddies, and I just kept on going. I was on one ski, and I'd get going fast enough, and the wind would pick me up, and I'd level out, and so my one side ski was floating up in the air, and I pulled into White Mountain there, and one of my buddies ran up to me and took a look at it and said,
Dad, want me to go get you a shock?
I said, yeah. So he took off running to his house to go get a shock for me, and I was still racing at that point, so I gassed up and I took off to Golovin. We went all the way to Golovin on one ski and back to White Mountain. By the time I got back, he had a shock ready for me and tools, and put the shock on as fast as I could, went back, fueled up, and kept racing.
Probably the most favorite would be 1995 on that very fast Arctic Cat ZRT 600 they came out with.
New record.
Very fast race. Very fast. Just over 2 hours round trip. It was just very, very fast. And that machine would just pull and go.
When you're riding at that speed, you really have to make some compromises. You're looking, half a mile ahead, and trying to, in general, look for the large obstacles. And, if there's big drifts and big logs in the way, you obviously have to pick your way around those. It's innate. It's something that can't be taught. But as you go down the trail, the sun is in one direction, the wind is blowing from another, the drifts tend to form in a certain way all the time. And the really successful racers can read that snow and know which side of the stakes to be on, which side of the road to be on, and where you can find the fastest and smoothest route.
A lot of variances come into play.
How the snow comes in, how it freezes, how the wind blows. Tides affect ice movement in spots, pressure ridges, overflow. You can get a severe wind and a blow with snow. The drift can be like concrete. Safety is a notorious one right there. Some of those fish cabins along the way, they can make some nice drifts there. It can launch you. Oh, those hurt. You don't see them sometimes. All of a sudden you're wicking it along. The road looks so smooth, and all of a sudden there's a drift out of nowhere. Oh!
It's not so much high winds and snow. I mean, that's pretty much a given. You know that you're going to see that at some point in the day. But daylight and sunlight have a huge effect on speeds and how the race is going to be run. If you get up on race morning and it's a crystal clear blue sky day, well, wonderful.
It was a nice sunny day, so thank God, I guess.
But those days don't always come along, and there have been a lot of days when the Nome-Golovin has white light, flat light, and it's very difficult to see. You put on your yellow goggles and grit your teeth all day, and when the light is flat and when you can't see, it's nerve-wracking, it's riding on eggshells, and yet somebody is going to ride, somebody on that day is going to get through. Somebody's going to have a decent time. Somebody will win. And you can't wait for a perfect day, because today's the day and we're going.
Use your best judgment. Good luck. Be safe.
Ice, driftwood. Sometimes there's wood flying.
Most people don't realize how it is to ride on the interior like that, especially up on the Bering Sea. There is no perspective. There's no trees. Everything is white. Everything blends together. And it looks flat, and all of a sudden it ain't flat. And as we all know, you could be ripping along, and all of a sudden there's a pressure ridge or an ice chunk, and next thing you know, you're chasing the parts.
What are the skills you need to have and the strategies that you need to put in place in order to win the Nome-Golovin 200?
The really successful racers now are fellows that prepare and understand what's involved. They understand the challenge. You don't just go to your friendly neighborhood Polaris or Ski-Doo dealer and buy the latest and the greatest and slap some numbers on the windshield and go and win. It just doesn't work that way. The machines, they're pretty good right out of the box. You bet they are. But you can always improve them, and the really good racers spend lots of time working on suspension setups, working on shock valving, working on clutching.
Stripping the machine down and building it back up just got you into it so much, so you knew the machine, you knew your confidence, and you would just go and do it.
Work on them all week to ride them for one day on a weekend. That was about it. Just go through them best I could, best I knew, picking what brains I could pick with some fellow racers, you know, what ideas they would share. Most everybody kind of kept their secrets to themselves.
When the machine's running great, then you feel comfortable and you can just go and let the machine run. Because if you're thinking right, you're comfortable, then all the mechanics come into play automatic. Kind of makes me want to get back in there. You gotta learn to ride your own race, not somebody else's. You gotta, with your own head, it's not just all thumb. You gotta use your head, brake, and thumb. Time goes real quick. Once everything's working right, the machine's just flawless. Motor's chipper, suspension's working. Then you just get into it before you know it, the race is over. So you don't really think about much what's right in front of you, because there are times when you're going pretty fast. You better focus. Things hit you pretty quick. I've been bucked off many a time.
It's point A to point B as fast as we can. It's about a 2-hour race, so there's not a whole lot of room for having mistakes, so you just run as fast as you can for that long, and whoever comes out first had a little bit of luck on their side and was able to keep things together.
On the other hand, it's just not all luck. You got to have the big gonads to be able to hang on and read the light and take the chance, and that's usually the guys that are winning, but they're good too.
Fast as you can go, but you got to use your head, because anybody can go fast, but you're not going to get to the finish line if you don't know how to throttle back and pick your line through some of that stuff, because you're moving pretty quick.
Someone who was a favorite in this race now out. Isn't that correct, Nate?
That's correct. I guess Buddy O'Fleece had crashed this morning when he was doing a quick training run just down the coast of just this side of Nome River, from what I understand, and necessitated a quick trip to the hospital to get checked out. But anyway, he's incapable of riding today, so unfortunately he's scratched, and he certainly would have been one of the class favorites today.
To win or be in your class, things got to be going smooth, and nothing, no problems, riding comfortably, letting the machine do the work where you can relax.
Starting line, I just try to relax, you know, which is pretty impossible to do, you know. You get a chance at winning this thing once a year, and here you are on the starting line getting ready to go, but I make myself relax, and right when I leave the starting line, I just and trying to control my adrenaline, you know, that's the biggest thing, because a lot of guys will go out there and hold the throttle wide open and just ball it up in the first couple miles of the race. Those first couple miles, you're just getting your adrenaline in control, and once you hit Nome River, it's on, you know, you're comfortable, you're feeling good, you just do what you're used to doing, you know you're good, you know you're talent-wise, you're there, and you got good equipment, and be confident and go out and use your head, you know, and try to put a solid finish together. You got to take into account that the race is definitely not over in the first 100. Staying on top of it and riding smart all the way to that finish line.
Tortoise in the hare. Be the tortoise.
It's a 200-mile race, 180 miles. And you come to terms with your speed and your limits pretty quickly. If you're going to ride like an idiot and prove how fast you are and how bad you are, you won't be making it very far. You'll be splattered on the ice within sight of Nome. So once you get out about 5, 10, 15 miles, after you've hit a few bumps and after you've had a couple near misses, that tends to calm everybody down and takes the fight right out of you, and you realize, man, this is going to be a long day, and we better just sit back here in the saddle and get to Golovin and get back and let the chips fall. But you're not going to win the race in the first few miles. You can sure lose it there, and lots of guys have.
I couldn't stand having anybody in front of me. So if I seen that dust, my concentration factor was get to that dust, get past him, and go. And that just always seemed to give me that pace that I needed, and that pace paid off more than once. You always had to kind of push the envelope a little bit and make them come in behind you. Just go, get it.
You don't think about other racers being a threat, you know. You just go out there and do what you know how to do, and that's that, you know. You don't let anyone else get in your head or anything like that. You just, you know, there's fast riders out there, and all that's out of your control. You just go out there and race.
It took several attempts, but finally I was able to succeed once, and that was a check mark in my book to be able to win that Nome-Golovin race, because it's a tough one, it's a fast one.
Big winner. Where's John Fail? John has run this race how many times, John? 4 times or 5?
At the time it was fail. Everybody got to beat fail. And I did it. There was confidence builder there. He was always the big name going up.
Louis Schick. Here's a color race, 407. And here's a little trophy.
Most of the races, it seems like it's always the same ones winning.
Did I win this thing? Kevin has now finished 8 times and has won in 7 of those. What? I'd like to thank Jim Laddie, Jim Wilkie. You guys stand up.
Those guys are the ones doing their homework. And granted, whatever sport it may be, there's always somebody that's on top of the envelope that has got that extra little niche of ability, and if he's just in tune, he can't be beat, it seems like. People kind of go in cycles, and they may get a 2-3 year period where they're kind of untouchable, and then all of a sudden they get a streak of bad luck where it be maybe not their fault, but it could be mechanical, could be machine related. There's a handful that do their homework, know what they're doing, and are talented, and it shows. And those are the ones that are generally hard to beat. And that's the ones that generally stand out year after year. Those are the ones that people remember years down the road. The one that could not be beat or was hard to beat.
In the Nome-Golovin 200, the reasons for competing are as unique as the racers themselves.
The Nome-Golovin race, unlike anything else I'm aware of, tends to be more of a race against yourself than against your competitors. Because of the staggered start, leaving on intervals, you never really know until half an hour after the race who's won.
What the hell was that?
You'll be spotting people at the turnaround in Golovin, which often is the only indication you have of where you are in relationship to your competitors, and that's at halfway. So it tends to be a contest all day of you against yourself and how fast you're willing to push yourself and how fast you can make that machine go.
It was good.
It was good?
Yeah, a little rough, but good.
Yeah. You did good on your time?
I don't know, I'm gonna go check.
Okay, good luck.
A lot of people, a lot of spectators from all over would come.
Folks coming in from all villages in our region. Of course, a majority of the field is from Nome. Pretty exciting sight. Some of the fastest machine you'll see in Western Alaska are lined up in the start line, lined up 4 abreast, ready to go out in 30-second intervals this morning.
It's going to be a terrific race, and I'm glad to see this much talent in it this year.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
Your adrenaline's going with them. You want to go and do it. Yeah, it's just excitement. It's in your blood. So you like the high-speed stuff, just going, getting in that little zone you're in, and when things are clicking right, it's fun.
Nome-Golovin is a fast, tough, quick race, but it was a very rewarding race if you were able to finish and win. And that and a few others were able to put a few bucks in my pocket over the 30 years of riding snowmobiles, and Nome-Golovin was one of them.
I got a couple of bucks for it. Here's a check for 5,000 smackaroos.
The fastest and toughest and fiercest competitors throughout the state showed up there to race.
They gave you a $5,000 bonus for winning overall in the race, and so overall, between winning the race, winning the overall prize, I won about $18,000 that year, I think, which is, you know, pretty good for 2 hours of racing.
Big money, big money. Come on up. Bring out your money. We'll take it out.
It's not so much the prize money, it's just the doing it and say you did it, bragging rights.
You mean Louis Schick? Louis Schick. Where's Louis? All right, Louis. I got a couple bucks for you.
I never tried to be a cocky racer. Always quiet, did my own thing, but boy, I took it serious, you know. I came to the starting line, the games were over, I just focused on one thing, it was me, and it was at the other end, and I wanted to be the first one back. The competition is fierce, it's fast, one mistake, and you're not gonna probably get the overall. Second place, they don't remember who was second place. They don't remember who won that year.
Over the years, one of the things that the Lions Club did was they built a perpetual trophy, a perpetual plaque that has the names of every overall winner on it year after year after year. And when you look through those names, it is sort of a who's who of Alaska snowmobile racing. The multiple winners on there are winners that have won every race in the state. Guys like John Feo and Evan Booth and Jim Blaney. These fellows are virtual legends in snowmobile racing around Alaska. They're well known, and it's an honor to have your name on the plaque.
Although the race is primarily sponsored by the Bering Sea Lions Club, it draws heavily on the support of volunteers and local businesses to both organize and provide monetary donations to help build the race's growing purse.
When you live in a town like Nome, and there's not very many towns like Nome, but when you live in Nome, everybody has to work towards a common goal of making the town just a little bit better. Anything you can do to make it a little more enjoyable, well, that's what you should do.
Bless their souls, it takes a lot of people to put an event on. From the organizers, to the people that house you, to the trail markers, to the people that gas. Most people anymore like to be paid for their services, but for some reason we've got a small little tight-knit community of snowmobilers that enjoy the sport, love it, and always are there to take the entry fees, put on a little dinner. Without the volunteers, none of this would have ever happened over my whole career. Nome is known to be one of the unique flying communities up there. There's some good air carriers up there.
Good.
Good.
On White Mountain.
Good race.
Yeah.
Right on.
Couple of good wrecks.
Thank you, sir.
You bet.
That's a little bit of confidence in the snowmobilers, knowing that they have got basically a medevac service, in a sense, looking out over them in case there's an incident. At least it's done in a more timely manner too. they can at least make a radio call and people can, the search and rescue can come out and assist aid, because I know it's helped in the past, or feasible, make a landing close by and assist in aid, and that's important. Just a good feeling to have, knowing there's somebody in the sky above you that's keeping an eye on you as well.
The heart of a sporting event often lies in its community. This is certainly the case of the Nome-Golovin 200, the longest-standing snowmobile race in Northwest Alaska. With a history of nearly 50 years, the Nome-Golovin 200 has become an integral part of the local culture.
It's just what we do.
To show the people, they get such a hype off of it. It's nice when they can see everybody in a line. All the racers are being paraded down the main street there, and of course they've got them on both sides of the street, and they're hooping and hollering for their favorite. And the racers are waving to their family, their kids, their wives, or whatever you might say on the side, or parents.
It's just a way for the community to come together, bring in people from other areas, and it's always been a community event, just again to have a little bit of fun in the middle of the winter.
You try to help each other out, even though you're out there competing against each other. It's still a brotherhood event.
So even the leaders will stop, they'll pull over, when they see somebody crash, see somebody injured, they'll slow down, they'll stop, and are you okay? Is there anything I can do?
Accident, make sure. Stop and tell somebody. Not call them. We'll let one of the checkers go there.
More of a respect thing, you know, everybody's going out there trying to win the race, and everybody's going out there and pushing over 100 miles an hour, and everybody's, you know, kind of crazy in their own way for doing it, but so everyone kind of has that mutual respect for each other.
It's an ongoing legacy of champions.
The race is getting huge. We love it. We love doing it. We enjoy having everybody out, the racers, all the participants, our sponsors, fans. Really appreciate it. Thank you. We'll see you next year.
Many changes have occurred over the past decades in the history of the Nome-Golovin 200. The veterans are passing the torch to the new generations. Still, the spirit of the race remains the same. It's a test of equipment, technical ability, commitment, sportsmanship, and courage. This is the Nome-Golovin 200. The legacy of its champions continues.
There's a lot of kids out there that have probably dreamed of racing as I had when I was younger. I mean, I know snowmobile racing ain't everything in life, but you know, if you got a passion in doing it, go after it, you know.
We could kid them, I'm coming back. One last time. I'm gonna make a point to call those knuckleheads. Jim Blanning, I'll be calling you. Evan Booth, I'll be calling you. Who else do I gotta get? How about Stan Morgan? Yeah, you got a call coming. Dan Zappe? Yeah. Shoot, you better be writing all these down. I'm getting involved now. But I can do my part. It's about everybody doing their part.